Hello, and welcome to part one of Video Game Academy's discussion of Little Inferno with Benjamin Kozlowski and Wesley Schantz.
Okay, so we're starting up again. It's Wesley Schantz here with Ben Kozlowski.
Hello.
How's it going, Ben?
It's going alright, how are you?
All right. And this time we are playing Little Inferno. You are the one who decided this was the game to play next, and I'd never heard of it, but I took you at your word, and it is really awesome, I've got to say. So how did you come across this game? Where did you hear about it? How did you start playing it? And what is it like? Are you replaying it now or just going off memory?
Well, to answer your first question, I was following Kyle Gabler's work back when he was doing World of Goo.
What is World of Goo?
It is as magnificent as Little Inferno, I suspect. It's this wonderful little game where you build towers as high as you possibly can using goo balls,
Okay.
which are adorable and stick to all sorts of surfaces as well as each other. And the game is like one half a construction game and one half a puzzle game, and like every successive set of levels introduces a new kind of goo ball with new rules that you have to pay attention to, like goo balls that light on fire, or goo balls that like stick
Oh,
to weird surfaces, or goo balls that actually like aren't sticky at all and just will rotate or collapse if you do not build them properly. Um, but I
oh.
was really enamored with his art style, and his very strange, kind of morbid sense of humor, just from the start. Like, World of Goo was all about these goo balls trying to explore new worlds, and it had this surprising level of optimism paired with that, again, morbid sense of humor, and an occasionally biting social commentary. So when I was poking around Steam one day, I noticed that there was a new game released with that same art style, very distinctive, called Little Inferno. So I picked it up, like right on the spot. One of my indie impulse buys, which I get like two or three a year. Um, and I love it. Like more even than World of Goo, I keep coming back to Little Inferno. And it's sort of become tradition that every year, for a while there when I was at Boston College, and then again when I was at the seminary, every year when final exam time came around, that was the game I would play to unwind, just because it was short, simple, did not require a huge time commitment or attention commitment, and was also viscerally satisfying
Okay.
insofar as the main, interaction you have with it is setting things on fire, um, all without having to worry about actually losing anything precious to you.
So, yeah,
um,
does it actually destroy one of your um when you choose one of your photos to burn, does it actually delete it off of your phone?
it does not.
Okay.
It just duplicates it for the purposes of watching it burn in the game. So, you do not have to worry about your game running away and deleting anything. It is perfectly benign, very self-contained.
Because that's
Um,
that's one of the first moments when I was like, okay, this is actually like really interesting. There's several that struck me playing just through the first couple of catalogs here, but that was probably the most, like, I really kind of froze. Like, wait, do I get to keep the photo that I wore? Like, I had to agonize over which photo to choose, and I was like, oh, they can't possibly like delete a photo from. But like, I didn't read the terms and conditions. Like, I don't know my stuff if I choose it, so
I
yeah,
love
I
the
thought
fact
that
that,
was very interesting, and unsettling.
yeah, unsettling is a good word for this game. There are a lot of moments like that where it'll sort of challenge and question your decisions and how wantonly you are willing to destroy everything that it throws at you. Um, there are a lot of good moments like that, and that one's one of the best. Like it definitely sort of makes you aware, makes you a part of it, makes you complicit. Like it's all fun and games while you're burning stuff that it just throws at you, but it's another thing when it's actually something that means something. Like you've got that whole list of pictures, and in all likelihood it's you and your loved ones, and Little Inferno is like, hey, chuck that in the fire. I bet it burns real nice.
Oh, yeah, and so the well, just to like overview a little bit here, step back and like give a bit of a summary of this game, kind of like you did for World of Goo, if I've got that right. So the game seems to be like you have this fireplace, you get this mysterious letter saying congratulations on your fireplace, right? And then it's like
Right.
touch anywhere to burn, and so you just
Yeah.
start burning stuff, and it like it's very congratulatory about everything. Like you said, you far from being concerned about burning things, you're encouraged to just be like gung ho and like have at it, see
Right.
see how much you can burn. And it seems like at the same time it wants to stress that you shouldn't worry about playing with fire. That's of course dangerous, but we're told very early on there's something even more dangerous, and we aren't told yet what that is. But I guess you're sort of encouraged to just um, embrace the warmth of the fire and not worry so much about the potential dangers of it. And the gameplay is really smooth. Like you just you drag and drop things, you touch the screen anywhere you want to kindle a little flame, and kind of like that the title screen flame. It seems like you have unlimited matches or whatever it is that you're doing
Hmm.
to spontaneously combust things. That's one thing that is not in any way scarce, which I thought again like that's kind of weird. What's going on with that? So there's clearly like some kind of story hovering in the background here, and it has to do with physics and mechanics of the game. It's very implicated in sort of the activities, but it's just very cerebral too when you stop and kind of think about what's going on. If you can break the laws of thermodynamics in that way, then this is kind of a weird little world we're in here.
Yeah, there are a lot of sort of questions that come up, and a few that the game sort of teases in its own right. Like you meet a fair number of strange characters through the letters that get delivered to your door. And you open the first one, and it's from Miss Nancy, the proprietor of Tomorrow Corporation, who is congratulating you on your Little Inferno entertainment fireplace, as she says. Um, and then you get the one from Sugar Plumps, who is apparently a fellow Little Inferno owner, who is equally excited about the prospect of burning all of her things, and occasionally hits you up for requests when she can't get a certain item. So
Right.
like she asks you for the fireflies, and you have to like append it to the mail, and then she receives it and sends you back stuff. Like I think she sends a paper heart at one point, and a thermometer, and a picture of herself. So you're engaging with these characters on this sort of like one directional manner. You receive without responding in most cases, though you do occasionally get the opportunity to like send something back.
Mhm.
um, but at the same time, there is a sort of darkness surrounding everything that's going on. Like on the one hand, you've got this weird rule where, like every time that you burn something, you actually get more money back than you spent on the thing in the first place.
Yeah, that's what I mean. It's anti-entropy in a way.
It is, but at the same time, you'll notice that a lot of those characters in in their letters will say, "This can't last forever, can it?"
Yeah, there
With
has to be
this,
an end at some point. Yeah.
yeah, they keep suggesting that, here we are in this robust, wonderful world of like all of this crazy stuff to burn, and just this sort of snowballing means to keep buying and burning. But at the same time, they keep suggesting, this has to end eventually, right? Like it's always with a question mark. Like, are we sure this can't go on forever? It seems like it can go on forever. I did the math. It sounds like we can go on forever. But really, really, is that the case? Um, and I think that that's especially in the context like of how it presents itself. It's so excited to be here. like with the cheery little music every time that you open up the catalog, which sounds like it's straight off the Home Shopping Network
Yeah.
or a Billy Mays infomercial. Um, you get this sort of like really excited supermarket vibe as you're picking out what you're going to burn next. And buying new stuff unlocks new stuff. So the more you purchase, the more you get, the bigger the game becomes. Which again feeds into that anti-entropy cycle, which doesn't seem to make sense, but is sort of suggested to be less than infinite, even so.
Yeah, yeah. There's this kind of uh, frantic quality to the game. Like there isn't any reason for it really, because like you say, you're gonna make plenty of money. There's sort of like infinite little spiders that'll come down if you wait long enough. As far as I can tell, right? They'll just sort of give you
Yeah.
free money if you get stuck or whatever. Somebody's bound to send you something to burn, and you'll be back moving again. But nevertheless, there's this kind of like urgency to it.
Yeah.
And and it's really, yeah, I think it's really interesting how it connects with the aesthetic of the game, right? It's like it's so quiet and so empty at first,
Mhm.
and then when stuff starts burning, it's just like you just want it to keep going. You want to keep adding stuff and see how much you can burn and how quickly you can, and how big your fire can get, and um, it's just really it's really freaking fun.
Yeah.
And then some everything you burn sort of has a different little animation that it'll do too, right? You start
Mhm.
to maybe notice that things that have wheels on them will slide, or roll back and forth rather, and things that are metallic interacted with different ways with that weird sort of emblem that's on the back of the fireplace,
Mhm.
which is one of the very first mysteries. Like you want to somehow interact with that thing, but you can't seem to do it right away.
Right.
It's apparently like a set of gears. It reminds me, if you ever saw Howl's Moving Castle,
Hmm. Yeah.
or I don't know if he's in the book, but in the movie anyway, the Studio Ghibli movie, there's this character Calcifer,
Hmm.
who's like the spirit of the fireplace, right, and sort of the soul of the building. And that's a really old idea, that this idea of like the hearth and the spirit of the home sort of residing there. So whatever that thing is in the background, that seems to be connected with this like implied notion that there's some kind of goal here. There's some kind of end that you're shooting for.
Yeah.
But anyway, so you can't seem to do anything with that, but you do get lots of cool little combos, right? Like
Yep.
if you burn multiple things, you're likely as not they're going to give you a bonus for doing so, and name it, and it's just very satisfying, man. The
Yep.
pirate on a bike combo, like you discover accidentally because they're like two things that you buy next to each other. But
Hmm.
then you're like, oh, wait, like there's this whole long list of like 100 combos. I'm gonna find all of these. It'll be awesome.
Yep. Um, and it's neat how little it has to push you to do this stuff too. Like
Yeah.
there's no tutorial moment. There's no, hey, there's also this list of combos. Like you get the bike and the pirate right next to each other, so it sort of naturally falls into place. You get like one little hint from Sugar Plums where she's like, hey, try this particular combination, and that's it.
Yeah.
There's no other indication for like what the combos do, but you'll remember, what do you get when you do a combo?
The little stamps come out,
Yeah.
and then you can make things appear faster. And I think you have to do enough combos and burn everything to get a new catalog, right?
Yes. You have a certain requisite number of combos you have to complete, and you've got to burn everything in the last catalog to be able to unlock the next one. And then, of course, there's like a fee, which at that point usually isn't a huge problem. But those are
Right.
the three criteria you have to meet to unlock each successive catalog. But the stamps, like I want to dwell on for a bit because
Sure.
one of the things that Little Inferno is doing, in addition to sort of its interesting story and bleak outlook and setting, one of the things that it's definitely doing is satirizing other phone games. Um, so there's been a glut, and there was at the time that Little Inferno was released. I think back in like 2011, and it continues to this day, where you get all of these little free to play phone games that instead of charging a set fee up front like Little Inferno does with its little $5 buy-in. Instead, it's like, hey, you can play this game for free, but you're only going to make it a certain distance before you really need to pay to continue. So what they'll do is they'll charge you by your patience. What they'll do is, like, it was a famous example of EA butchering this mechanic with an old Dungeon Keeper phone game, where it was like, in order to dig the next area, you had to pay some in-game currency, like pay $3, and then you can do it. And a lot of phone games work on this model, where it's like, you can always start the game for free. You can always get a certain degree for free. You can maybe even play the game forever for free, like Farmville, but it's going to be way faster and way easier if you just drop some money in. So the model is, we will pit your wallet against your patience. And I think Little Inferno with the stamps is actually sort of satirizing that mechanic. That here you are in this world where, once again, you are presented with all this fun stuff to do and all this new stuff to unlock, but every now and again you're waiting for that TV to show up, and it's going to be a whole 2.5 minutes. Now you could sit there and watch the little bar tick down, or maybe set fire to some of the other stuff you're hanging out with in your inventory, or you can drop some of those stamps.
Yeah.
But unlike all those duplicitous phone games with their patience testing financial mechanics, Little Inferno never requires you to drop money. Like, it will never ask you for another dollar. It will never ask you for anything. It will provide you with those stamps for free through the combos that you do, and then you can use them whenever you want.
Is there any incentive for stacking them up? Like, is there anything to be gained by hoarding up stamps, or money for that matter? Like,
yeah, the couple of things that you can do with the coins, with the little money that each item drops, like, once you get the second catalog, I think you unlock the ability to expand your inventory.
oh yeah.
Like, there's a little plus sign over to the right side of where you keep your stuff. Like, there's this great message that if you buy too many things, like if your inventory is full up and you try and buy something else, it'll be like, sorry, you need to burn some of the things you've already got before you can buy any more. And then the button for yes is, I'm sorry, I got too excited.
Yeah, that's right.
Like, it's the little kid who's just like stuffing ice cream cake into his mouth too fast, and the mom is telling him, all right, slow down, come on. Like, it's got this little message. So again, that's one of the few restrictions on this game. Like, you have to have enough money to buy the item, and you've got to wait for it to show up using stamps if necessary. But also, if your inventory is too small, you can't hold on to all your stuff. And especially when you're building up some of those complex combos, you need these 3 items. You're trying to build a couple more things there. So saving up some money to occasionally expand your inventory is the one other sort of investment you can make. But as far as the stamps go, really, it's open season. Each stamp will take 30 seconds off of one of your incoming orders. And whilst the later catalogs have stuff that tends to take longer to show up, that's really the only thing that you're ever going to spend stamps on. So do not feel obligated to accumulate them. Feel free to just blow them off as you see fit.
Yeah, there's also there's a little star, I think, that appears when and there's that cheering sound effect when you gain a combo. But again, like, the combos seem to be sort of this extra frilly thing. You need a certain number of them, but you don't have to complete them in any sort of definite sense to progress. It's just like something fun and, again, sort of arbitrary, like the pirate on the bike, which I just adore that. Like, it's just so silly, and each of those things, is it's such a resonant kind of a toy also that you get to burn, and when you burn them together, it's better than burning them apart somehow. There's like a story there, implied in that, and again, that seems to be sort of what the game wants to draw your attention to in these little ways, interspersed with all of the pyrotechnics. You get these little bits and dribbles of like something weird's going on, right? Like, yeah, you get your messages that come in the mail, but then there's also the pretty involved video. I think
Yes.
I've only found one video so far,
Yeah,
but
it's the only one in the game, so don't go
oh,
looking for more. But
oh gosh, it's a trip though.
it is.
So you can rewatch it, of course, but I don't know that you'd want to.
Yeah. I watch it every time I go through the game, and occasionally see it again just to sort of like pick it apart. But it's just like it's the one little bit of set dressing, the one little bit of world building that the game indulges in, besides the things that you can actually burn, and those are only sort of tangentially pointing at what the world is like where you are. But the video is as explicit as it gets, and I love the sort of almost hyper consumerized to the point of absurdity tone that it takes, where again it's like this smarmy salesman type guy, like, hey kids, you know what's more fun than playing with your toys? Setting them on fire. Like, he's just so excited about it. And you watch the video and it very much comes off as like this 90s commercial for kids toys,
Oh yeah.
where the Little Inferno entertainment fireplace is the fancy new gotta have Christmas gift of the year, or whatever you want to sort of connect it to. But halfway through that video it turns dark,
Oh yeah.
where it's sort of, it points, I think the line is like, but way up in the sky it's been snowing for years and we just don't know why.
Yes.
um and it's like there's something ominous about it. There's something ominous about the world that you are inhabiting at this point in time. And the solution he prescribes is burn all of your toys and stay warm. Which, like, if there isn't a more chilling image in a throwaway $5 game, I would be hard pressed to find it. Like, the game is sort of posing this situation where you are a child staving off, hypothermia by successively burning all of your toys one at a time in your, corporate made entertainment fireplace. Um, so, I think it's kind of fascinating how grim it is, and yet how the solution to the grimness is, again, this sort of huge corporate indulgence. Like, just keep buying stuff, just keep buying stuff, just keep burning it all, just keep getting the money and cycling it through, doing it over and over again, and that's what's going to keep you going.
That's right.
um,
That's right.
like, it's a sort of horrific parody of just like this sort of American consumerism, where it's just, we're going to buy stuff and buy stuff and buy stuff, and when the scientists tell us that our world is doomed, then we're going to solve it by going to McDonald's and buying a smoothie and forgetting about it. Like, that's the best answer we've got. These problems are way bigger than us, and therefore the only thing that we can do is shop therapy. Like,
Uh-huh. Uh-huh. It's
and
well, the game, I mean, the game itself seems to be self-consciously feeding into that, right? Like, I mean, you could go and buy something at a store, but it's way easier to buy something on your phone.
yep.
Uh, it's immediate. You have it right there. It is highly distracting. It's delightful, but its distraction is such that it sort of reminds you of what it is you're being distracted from, right? Like
Mhm.
that deeper sort of philosophical problem, but also just something as innocuous as making you look at your photos briefly there and sort
Yeah.
of like actually look at them in a way that maybe you wouldn't otherwise. Yeah, yeah. I can see the appeal here. I can see why this game is one that you've come back to for, almost a decade now. I didn't realize it was this old. Honestly, I
Yeah.
thought it was much newer. It has held up well.
It has. It absolutely has. And again, that very distinctive art style
Yeah.
makes it so the gradual increase in graphics has had no effect on it. And the fact that it is so minimalistic, like it is just you staring at a fireplace watching things burn, time after time after time, means that you really don't have to worry about like major changes in graphics development or slowdowns because of patching and stuff like that. It just keeps on going.
And the go back to the video though, there's something also about that salesman. He's present as this sort of hand,
Mm-hmm.
right? This really uh, vile like claw. It's also somehow like boneless in a distinct way. Uh, it just yeah, and it just sort of like pops in from either side of the screen. Really, it's the same hand that seems to be holding that match that never burns out in the title
Mm-hmm.
screen, and it's also what you're doing as you play the game, which is like touching the screen in all these different places. So that's really disturbing to me. That whole sort of like meta thing that it's doing there. But also at the end of the video, the characters that you can see, they just their house is burned down and then they like explode.
Yep.
They are also burned up in the general conflagration there, and there's no indication that that's like within the context of the game and animation. That's like something that they did to these child actors is what it seems like to me. It's like that's awful.
Right.
that
um
this entertainment business like consumes people.
yes.
Yeah.
And it is like by the end of that video it is just screaming and burning, like just incomprehensible and just horrifying, and it just sort of leans into it. And then like you get the screaming, you get the burning, and then the kids, they're literally laughing as they explode. Like
Oh gosh, yeah.
you can hear the child voices like cheering for more, as their house is burned down around them, and you've just got this one little chimney like reaching up to the sky with the fireplace still there.
Yeah.
um, it is really disconcerting and really ominous, and sort of like again, for all of that solution, like the world is doomed but forget about it, just burn your stuff and stay warm. It's like, yeah, that's not going to be a solution. At the end of the day, like that's self-destruction. You're just ushering the end on faster, which again is sort of what those characters keep talking about in their letters. Like, surely this can't last forever. Like, there has to be an endpoint. There has to be a real cost. Um,
Yeah.
so even as the game says, push forward, rush through it, get your stuff as quickly as possible. Don't think, keep burning. At the end of the day, it's like, no, no, one of these days you're not going to be able to do it anymore. Like, it's going to stop. And who knows what that's going to look like. It's not going to be good.
the I mean there's hints of this as you're burning stuff. I don't know, like maybe you don't care too much about spiders, but you do, like
Right.
they have little eyes, they're looking at you and you burn them and they spit out money for some reason. But then I think a lot worse than that is well, we mentioned the photo. That's
Mhm.
not so bad really, because yeah, like you say, it doesn't actually go away. But there's also the school bus.
Yeah.
I think the school bus is the first one where I was like, what just happened? as,
Yes.
as far as the commodities in game in a proper, um, that was really you're like, wait, like what did it just do to those kids on that bus? Were there kids on that bus? That was
It's
really quite realistic. The sound of their terror. I mean, it's like that's shocking when you
yeah.
stop and think about it. So,
And again, if you look closely at the bus, it's the disembodied hands at the wheel.
oh gosh,
Um, yeah, that same hand that freaked you out when we were looking through the video, that's holding the unburned match. Like, it's the same thing. You can see him sort of like picking at the wheel, like he doesn't even know how to drive properly. And then you set the bus on fire, and the screaming starts, and it drives to one end of the fireplace, and then it just explodes, and it's
yeah,
over. Like, everyone dies.
yeah,
It is horrifying. Like, it is a sort of very dark, very uncomfortable wake up call that you're burning like flowers and the spider eggs and the bricks and then the bus.
yeah.
Um, and like one of the things I did want to draw attention to, one of the reasons why I wanted to talk about this game was I think that the way that this game does theme is actually through the things you burn.
Uh-huh.
Um, that there's another component to the game which we will talk about when we get to it, but for the most part, like you will find that there are certain patterns to the things that you burn, things that come up fairly frequently. Like even in the first catalog, you get the blocks, you get the bricks, and then in the second catalog, you get a different set of blocks. And building, it's reinforced pretty consistently. In that first catalog, you get one of the combos that you have to get is like the lender's combo, and it's you burn somebody else's credit card with the bank. Um,
Which has a
and
weird name. What is the name of the bank? It's like the so and so machine or something. It's like
yeah, it's called the Blankety Bank. Like I have,
Blankety Bank. Okay.
yep. And one of the things that I find hilarious about the bank is it's got this like coin up at the top, and when you set the bank on fire, the coin spins, and you have a 50% chance of it spitting out whole bunch of money, which will then burn. But you also have a 50% chance of nothing happening, and it just goes meh, meh, and you're done.
Weird.
Yeah,
So, I mean, so the bank, the idea of lending, of this being somebody else's right stuff
mhm.
and pictures and family. Um, they look familiar. I think it says when you look at the description of it,
Right. Yeah. The more
which
you
is
look at it, the more they look familiar.
yeah. Of course, the school bus, and so those kinds of toys, which like have a powerful, sort of charge of emotion bound up with them, even though they're, ostensibly not really yours. You've just like sent away for them.
Right.
Um, but it sort of begs the question, like who you are, again, in a different way from the hand, which is also, by the way, the same creepy hand that pops up in the little toilet room in the stock
Oh,
room. Like, yeah, that guy was
yeah. It's
everywhere.
basically the same one. The hand gets around.
Y-
Um,
Yeah, it's like there's a weird there's a weird interaction with this person Sugar Plumps, who like somehow can contact you, and I think she eventually says that she's your neighbor. She
yeah.
thinks that you
She
guys.
pounds on the wall, like you can see the dust sort of fly off of your fireplace, and she's like, "I'm right here."
Yeah.
Yeah.
So she's like breaking the fourth wall in that kind of way too, but like so it's like the history of this person, this character, as you say, is like for you to sort of uncover through the objects that you burn, through the sort of motivations that you feel, through your different emotions and different level of involvement. um, there's also like a kind of anonymity to them, right? There's sort of this every person.
Hmm.
They get these sort of like broadcast messages from the Tomorrow Corporation and from the weatherman too,
Hmm.
who's a weird sort of like, is he real? Is he good? Is he evil? Like I don't know quite what to do with the weatherman just yet,
Yeah.
since he seems to be reporting on this blizzard which has been going on forever. But anyway, he seems to like transcend a lot of the buying and selling also. So
He's
yeah,
one of the few characters not wrapped up in it.
I'm really curious, yeah, to sort of get to know a little more about him too. But just like the dynamic of communication, the way it's built into the game, I find very interesting too. That you don't get to really initiate communication, but you get to sort of respond to it.
Hmm.
Is it's that strikes me as being sort of deeply true in a way. Uh,
Yeah.
like,
Especially as something that you interact with on your phone, I think.
yeah,
Like we do so much social media consumption, like, and again, it is sort of something that we think of ourselves as consuming. That people like delete their Facebook accounts so they will stop spending so much time just scrolling through Facebook.
yeah.
And again, you have all of these characters you only interact with when they want to, when they send you their letters. Like with the exception of you buying the couple of things for Sugar Plums, most of the messages you receive are just a bunch of sheets of paper that you just flip through on your way to burning the next thing. And of course, you burn them after you read them.
Well, can you even read the first set of instructions?
No, there
I
is
couldn't
no way
figure
to
out how.
Yeah, like it has the terms and conditions and instructions, and literally all you can do is stick them in the fireplace and burn them. Like if you try and read them, like you can see them a little bit. Like I play on my desktop, so I
Wow.
get a slightly higher resolution, but like half of the terms and conditions are redacted. Like you wouldn't even be able to read them if you had access to them. Like the whole thing is just blacked out. Um,
Yikes. All right. So
coming,
where do you go with this? Like, as far as the story of this game, I feel like it might be a little bit like missing the point to dwell on it too much. But the way that it's sort of baked into the activity of the game does seem to be like pretty brilliant. Like, I don't know that I would be as compelled to play this game if it was just, a bunch of sort of colorful things that were lit on fire.
mm,
Somehow having that kind of weird, almost Edward Scissorhands like aesthetic to it, um, and like sort of these patterns, built into the things you burn. That really adds to, for me, that adds to the like the urge, the desire to like keep playing this game,
yeah.
find out what's going on.
Well, plus, the things that you burn more often than not interact. Like it's more
Yeah.
than just you watch them burn. I mean, some of them are downright hilarious. Like I love the wooden space heater that you don't even have to set it on fire; it'll just eventually set itself on
I
fire.
didn't notice it was made of wood. That's great.
Yeah, I think it says like the description of the object is now made with 30% drier wood. Or you have like the dragon or the tiki torch where you set them on fire and they like spit their own fire in the
Yes.
process, or the bus driving across and exploding, or like the corn on the cob, you set it on fire and it turns into popcorn, and then like the kernels will also burn. Like it's there's a kinesthetic pleasure just to setting them on fire and watching the animations go, like seeing what will this do. And a couple of the items will interact with you even without burning them. Like if you get like a lot in the second catalog, like the stuffed animals and stuff, they
Mm-hmm.
all have these eyes and they'll follow your cursor around as you move it. Like
Oh.
like they're a little nervous. Like hey, what you're getting a little close with that fire starting thing there. Um, and one of the things that I do find like really fascinating, especially about the second catalog, is that it's the totally recalled toys catalog, and like half of the things in the catalog are just outright stupidly dangerous. Like again, you've got the wooden space heater, which is obviously like crazy in so far as it sets itself on fire. You've got the little joke snake container, like only instead of spitting out like a foam snake to prank someone, it throws out syringes
Oh my
of some sort
gosh.
of mysterious green liquid. Um, yeah, like there's just so many things in this catalog that are sort of like riffs on childhood, but with a really dark or dangerous edge to them.
Yeah.
Like even the light bulbs are just, they're very eminently breakable. Like you can just toss them up in the fireplace and they'll fall and shatter. And again, the description there is causes more puncture wounds than the leading brand. So a lot of these objects are just like scary in the hands of children. Like these are meant to be toys, but they are bad toys, toys that no one should have, things that are correct to burn.
Right.
Um, and like a couple of them explode. The one, like the gnome thing, falls apart and like poisons everything around it, so it like decays. There's the cat, which like you set it on fire and it just poops all over the fireplace. Like it's weird and bizarre and uncomfortable. And again, like thinking of these things in the hands of kids, you're just like cringing to think of it. Um,
So, I mean, I think there's a weird way that this game is sort of like allowing you to play out certain things which would be dangerous or stupid to do in real life.
mhm.
But in another way, I feel like it sort of encourages you to be more observant of real life also, right?
Yeah.
Like, like how, however dangerous things may be or may not be, like a lot of that has to do with our own sort of circumspection about using them,
Mhm.
or lack thereof, right? Like there's very few things more dangerous than a school bus full of children when operated improperly, right?
Right.
There's very few things that are safer when, driven with care and concern and love. uh, I just, yeah, like, I don't know, like everyone has to deal with syringes at some point.
Yep.
It's just a matter of doing it safely and, keeping that puncture wound to yourself. If you got to go in for, a doctor's appointment or whatever, right? So it's like there's a weird way in which it sort of draws attention to like the thingy nature of things, but also like your responsibility for using them properly or not.
Yeah. Which I think is what makes the satire part of this game so poignant. Like that's what satire is supposed to do. It
Yeah.
is supposed to be funny and it is supposed to be entertaining, but it also is supposed to make you think twice about the things you take for granted.
Yeah.
Like consumerism, like just shop therapy, like, just unthinkingly buying the next round of whatever phone game you're playing. Like the game is actively leaning into this sort of absurd consumerism for the sake of making you aware of your own habits, making you
Yes.
aware of your own role in that system.
And with that, I mean, I laughed out loud a lot with this game, but I mean, it really shook me also. It elicits powerfully the sort of this range of emotions that's, I mean, surprise, like there's a certain, even like awe and almost like mystery that you get with some of it too. I think it would be important to talk about the music a little bit here too.
Hmm.
Like my emotional response to games, like laughter and stuff like that is a powerful one that I really enjoy. And that usually comes from dialogue or like just absurd, circumstances and situations and that kind
Hmm.
of kinesthetic thing. But a lot of the emotion also comes from the music. That's what really, I think, helped draw me into this game right away too. Was the use of music, but also silence, I guess.
Yeah.
And then I guess the sound effects, play into that as well. But there's some really haunting music in this. Is that also the same guy, the artist who drew everything and designed it? Did he make up the music too?
Yeah, Kyle Gabler is a one-man show and has
Wow.
done the programming, the animation, and the music for I think both World of Goo and Tomorrow Corporation, as well as the two newer games that he's made. Although I think he's gotten some help. I think it's a two-man studio
Huh.
at the time of Little Inferno. But I mean, in addition, just side note, the soundtrack is available for free on the website.
Oh, cool.
Um, yeah, I've downloaded it because I too think that it's very powerful, very haunting, subtle, and yet like profound in its way.
Yeah.
Um, and again, like you say, the silence is such a crucial component of Little Inferno, especially. Like in World of Goo, there was always music playing, and some of it is truly fantastic. But in Little Inferno, 90% of the time, the only sound you'll be hearing is the warm, fuzzy crackling of the fires that you set, along with whatever sound effects are being played by whatever items you're burning. The only time music plays is when you get letters,
Hmm.
or when you're watching a video, or when you've just started up the game.
Yeah. Yeah.
So instead of assigning themes to levels like you would find in a Mario game or in a Zelda dungeon, instead the music is assigned to characters, and you'll hear the same theme played every time you get a letter from Sugar Plumps, although it changes over the course of the game. And the
Oh,
same is true with Miss Nancy, and the same is true with the Weatherman.
yeah.
um, so keep an eye out for those.
I will try. I mean, it's hard again, it's like it's hard to take in everything that's going on. I feel like
Yeah.
this is definitely a game that rewards replaying. And it sort of encourages it too by being so, short and so easy to kind of pick up and just play and then just sort of stop. There's
Hmm.
no I love that about, that it's a brilliant phone game. It's sort of about phone games, but it just in its own right. Like it's actually really fun, and addictive.
Yep.
It's dangerous.
Exactly.
It warns you. The very first thing that happens when you boot it up is it warns you that it's not to play with fire, right?
Right.
And then proceeds to just like indulge that to the nth degree.
Hmm.
Yeah, it's a wily one. This game.
Yep.
All right. Well, so as far as the first two catalogs, I I will continue on. I think I got to the third catalog. I don't really remember a lot of the second though. The second catalog, a lot of that's just a blur.
Yeah,
So I'll probably have to redo that a little. If for next time, how far should we try to get?
I would say get as far as the sixth catalog. So either like finish the fifth or get as far as you feel like getting through the sixth.
Okay.
So there are seven total, and then there's some end game stuff that we're going to want to talk about. So that's why I'm not, doing a little extra on this round.
Yeah.
But yeah, five or six. That's about what I figured, and that should give us plenty to talk about as far as the development of the characters, the story, and all of the sort of thematic things there are to burn between now and then.
All right. On. Okay. All right. So we'll regather in a week's time or so. So for now, the Little Inferno we draw to a close here. Little Dante, Little Virgil are going their separate ways, but we'll meet again. Thanks again, Ben.
Thank you, Wes.
See ya.
Bye. Thanks for listening to our discussion of Little Inferno. And a special thanks to Tomorrow Corporation for letting us use their music whenever it was appropriate. For more content like this, or if you just want to follow our progress, please visit us at videogameacademia.wordpress.com.